Okay, I shall text everybody that I'm live. All right, we're going live tonight. It's been a while, almost a week and a half. Hey, I see people already in. Nice, thank you. How's it going, everybody? I am happy to be back in Michigan. I was traveling for a conference earlier this week, like my announcement said. Uh, Tonight's going to be a lot of review, but it's also a little bit different, a little bit new. We're going to install WordPress again. It's actually time to practice installing WordPress one last time to prove that you can do it, but also because it needs to be publicly available. From here on out, you're going to be working on your final project, and I want to make sure that your final project is available to look at from any device, your phone, another computer. So rather than wait till the very last week like we did in Web 1, the goal is to set that up tonight, and then you will continue working on your WordPress site by connecting over SSH like you have been doing to your local server, but this time you're going to be using PuTTY or the terminal on your Mac to connect to a server I've provided you. And you'll have almost all the same powers that you had over your VM, except it'll be on my server that I've already prepared for you. So, in the week that's open in Moodle right now, I have a document called WordPress on Linode Notes. Oh, another person said hi. Hello. These notes I have rehearsed a couple times, and if anything goes awry, it's because I tried to undo everything that I've done so I could demo it one last time tonight. So I'll step through these. They are heavily based and almost identical to what we've done before, heavily based on this DigitalOcean how to install WordPress with LAMP on Ubuntu 18.04. I've made sure that the server that I am, well, you know what? I guess you can't see my screen. Man, I'm rusty. I haven't live streamed much lately. Okay, so it's heavily based on this WordPress article that we've referred to a couple times. But there are a few key differences. So let me zoom this up a little bit bigger. This is a document called WordPress on Linode Notes. The main difference is you do not have access to sudo. You can't run super user commands on the server that I've set up. You do have your own account, and I have tried to set up the server and these instructions so that everything that you do is going to be in its separate area, separate from another person's WordPress in the class. That's the goal. Now, remember, it is a shared server, so I do ask that you be pretty careful with this. Don't upload anything too large. I've had people build photography portfolio websites. Storage is kind of limited. You can definitely upload several large images, but I wouldn't recommend uploading movies or anything too large to this server if you can. It's a shared environment. And the most important thing for me to tell you is there will be aspects or steps along the way where I'll ask you to change a password and to create your own. Make sure you set it to something that you record, like in a KeePass vault or in a secret safe location that you can look it up later. Tonight, in particular, there will be passwords visible on the screen, but I will be changing those passwords immediately after the live stream. And like right here, I tried to give a note in Slack before the live stream began that said I will be showing my notes and my commands today. So I have to be very careful because this is recorded and will be posted on YouTube that the information doesn't contain passwords that will work after tonight. So I have redacted a lot of the starting passwords, and I would recommend that you open up Slack, scroll down into the Web 2 section for today or for this week, and find the starter passwords. I'm not going to say them out loud tonight if I can avoid it. So thank you, random internet people who are watching this video. Please don't attack our server. And if you don't choose a secure password, Please know that I have had my shared web server compromised in the past because of leaving insecure passwords during class, or I've set up WordPress several semesters now with students, and if we choose too weak of passwords, there are all sorts of automated bots out there that will crawl the internet because WordPress is so popular. It'll look for older versions of WordPress that haven't been updated in a while and use known vulnerabilities to kind of take over and start uploading files and running, I don't know, Bitcoin miners. I don't know what was going on, but I've had to wipe my web server and start over more than once in the past. So I have put in some precautions that will try to keep our server safe and sandboxed to just us for the class. One hiccup that has happened in the past is if you try to log in too many times with SSH, I have had to employ like a protection scheme that will block too many failed authentication attempts. So it is possible that you will try to upload too many times or log in too many times and you might get temporarily banned from the server. If that happens to you, I believe it will eventually clear and release that block from you, from your home. But it's definitely more than a couple minutes. And in fact, this was actually more of a problem when the class was taught face-to-face, because I would have, like 12 people in Web 2, and we would all, from the lab, try to connect to my server, and we'd all type in the password wrong once, and that was enough to ban all of us. So those are a couple disclaimers about the shared server. With that, let's get started. I am going to open up the terminal. I'm on a Mac, so I don't have to use PuTTY, but if you're on a PC, make sure you've downloaded PuTTY. It's a SSH client. Choose the SSH mode, and you're going to be connecting over SSH to a web server called kishba.com. I've owned this domain for well over a decade now. It doesn't really host much right now. If you go there at the time of this recording, it just says hello world. I've had a web presence in the past, and someday I will bring it back. But for now, it is completely blank except for our web class work. So it's going to be, the server host name is kishba.com. You don't have to memorize an IP address, thankfully. You can just enter kishba.com. And then your username is going to be your Mid-Michigan College username. Earlier this week, I set up an account for everyone. Now, when I log in with my username, I have set up my computer to trust, to have a copy of a trusted key that's up in the cloud. So mine automatically logs in. Yours will prompt you for your password. I'm not going to tell you what the password is. It is in Slack for you to look up and enter on your own. So be sure to follow up with me if you're not able to get in. That's really important that you try to do that this week, that you log in and install WordPress. So I am now going to exit out of my account and close it. And I'm switching over to another username that I created called Web2 2019 as my demonstration account. Is this large enough? Can everyone see the text, or should I zoom this up a little bit bigger? I know the commands can be hard to read sometimes. Okay, good. It does seem large enough. And when it's recorded, I think people can zoom it up large. Okay, so let's get started. When you SSH in, you'll get that welcome screen. The first thing that I would like you to do is run the program that lets you change your password. That's passwd. I guess we ran out of characters for password. So passwd is going to ask you for your current password and then ask you to repeat a new password twice. And I am going to cancel out of this because I don't want to change my password right now. I need to remember it. But that is the first thing that I would like you to do for the reasons I mentioned above. Now let's take a look at where we're at. Let's get a feel for this. I'm going to run who am I? That's my username, Web2 2019. So if I run pwd, which is print working directory, you'll see that when you log in, you start out in a folder located at /home/w2 2019. This would be your username. Let's see what's in this folder that I'm in. I'll use the ls command and it returns nothing. If I run ls-la, this runs the list command, but it's going to show everything in a list format and all the files, even the hidden files. And this is where you'll see that every time you log in to a Linux account, there are preference files that are created for you. So you do have content in here, and I promise you we're going to add content in just a second. In fact, the very next command that we're going to run is going to download a copy of WordPress with the wget command. Remember, you can copy and paste this. In fact, this is probably one of the only things that I'm going to type tonight, but I'm going to run this wget command, and it downloaded it. Luckily, this web server has a very fast internet connection. And now if I up arrow, you'll see that I've got a brand new file called latest.tar.gz. It's like a zip file. That contains the newest version of WordPress as of, what's today's date? April 12th, right? April 12th, 2019. The next step is to unzip it. So that's that tar command, xzvf are the options we're sending it. And I don't know why tar is different than other programs. The options that we send it, these flags, don't have any dashes on it. So you run the tar program, pass it some options that say to extract it, be verbose and recursive, and then the name of the file that we want to extract. So that's that latest file. It should unzip pretty fast, and if I rerun that ls-la command, not only do I have the file we downloaded, but I've got a WordPress folder. Look at that. All right, so let's keep scrolling down. The next thing we want to do is go into that WordPress folder. So I'm just going to cd and tab complete WordPress. You could have also, in my document, I used the ~. That means go to WordPress in my home folder. No matter which you do, you'll end up in /home/web2 2019, your username, /WordPress. And we're going to create a few more files in here that are required. There is a disclaimer about some features of WordPress not working that I'm going to cover at the end here. I'm still trying to figure out what is different about my web server compared to the web server that we set up earlier this semester in a VM. So there's something subtly different that's going to be a bummer, but I'm hopeful it won't be a permanent problem. And it has to do with this htaccess file. We are going to run Touch, which is an interesting program. What it does is it will, if a file already exists, it'll change the date it was modified, which is kind of handy if you're running a program like Dropbox or something on your computer that's waiting for files to change to do something. If you just touch them, it kind of just modifies the date it was last changed. It doesn't do anything to the file other than change the date it was modified. But that's often enough to trigger updates on your computer. If the file doesn't exist, Touch will create a blank file, which is really handy. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to touch the .htaccess file. This file is a file that Apache will recognize and allow WordPress to send some special options to WordPress, to Apache. The options that we want it to send are for those pretty URLs. And unfortunately, this is the part that's not working quite right, but we're still going to put it in place so that when I get the server fixed, your htaccess file will be read. So we're going to touch it. If I ls-la, you'll see now that there is an htaccess file with 0 bytes in it. There's no content in there, but it does exist, waiting for a future step to use it. We also need to make a few directories that don't exist by default. Underneath the WP content folder, we need to make sure that we create an upgrade folder. So let me go into WP content. You'll see that in here, there is no upgrade folder and there is no uploads folder. We would like those features to work. I would love for your WordPress installations to automatically upgrade themselves. And I would like you to be able to upload a theme, a plugin, images to your website, all those wonderful things that that WordPress does for us, but there needs to be an upload folder there in the first place. So these commands I'm going to copy and paste. Because they have the ~/ in here, it doesn't matter what folder I'm in when I run this command. It's going to make sure that it makes the folder underneath WP content. So let's run that for the upgrades folder and the uploads folder. And I'm just going to ls inside of the WP content folder. And now I have 2 new items that were not there a moment ago. I need to get up a few levels here. I'm going to go back up into the WordPress folder. And if you remember, WordPress ships with a config file, but it's a sample file. We have to create our own final version of it. So I give you a command here that's going to make a copy of the sample. And if I rerun that list command, you will see that Now there's a new version of it that was just created called wp-config.php. We need to go edit that. So we're going to use our favorite text editor, Nano, wp-config. Eventually it will autocomplete. .php. And this is where I'm just not going to be able to help myself here. I'm going to be setting some salt values and some passwords that are unfortunately going to be recorded. I guess maybe what I can do is modify some of them here on screen and then take them off screen so that they don't get recorded. I can help you out a little bit. Everyone has a database name. Let me scroll up to the top here. Your database name is going to be your username _ WordPress. So let's backspace this. Web2 2019 _ WordPress would be mine for this demo. Your username. Unfortunately, I picked the exact same username as the one that you used to SSH in. But I really need to give you a disclaimer that the username and password for MySQL are separate from the username and password that you were using with SSH. So the very first command where I have you change your password, that only changed your SSH password. The WordPress one, or sorry, the database one, the MySQL one, is going to be the default because I haven't told you how to change that password. And I'm okay leaving them at their defaults. I just don't want to show the default value here on the screen. So I'm going to skip that line. The database host name is localhost. It's going to be using the same server that we're uploading to as the MySQL server. And I believe there's one more setting we have to define. Yeah. Underneath all of that, we need to put this define fs method direct, which will allow WordPress to manage its own files and upload updates. So we also need to get the salt value. Oh, I skipped that part, so let me go back down. We need to fill in these values, and I'm going to use Control-K to cut everything that's already here. You can visit this URL, and every time you visit it, you will get a new set of values. They're completely random. So, magic here. We're going to put my face up on top of everything. I am going to refresh a few times. You have no idea how many times. I'm going to copy that, and I am going to, paste in. Oh, except I really messed it up here. I'm going to copy, paste. There we go. I've pasted my salt values in, and I'm going to go up and type in the password. Remember, that password is in Slack. And it should stay in Slack. Please don't share those passwords with anyone. It's the default one, not the one that you changed. And then I'm going to exit. And when it asks me to save, I'm going to say yes. And it's going to try to overwrite on the existing file name. That's okay. Let me go back to my screen here. So when I exit it out and I ls-la, you'll see that the sample file was, the config file was just saved a moment ago. So that has my settings in there. Let's go back to where we were at. We added the fs method direct. I exited and saved. We're going to go back to our home folder where we started. That's the ~/. And if you look at the folders that are in here, you have a WordPress folder. Now, when I prepared the server, I have made a couple changes. I didn't want to give everyone access to edit where the files are typically stored. So I set up a symlink, a symbolic link, that will give every one of you in the class enrolled today a URL on the website that points and tries to find the files in your home folder in a www folder. So how do you make this magic work? Well, first we need to create the www folder. All right. And if I list it, you'll see that now we've got a WordPress folder and a www folder. If I put files in here, they will be available at a special URL. I'm going to show you that in a minute. So just trust me that what we're going to try to do now is copy or move the files out of the WordPress folder into the www folder. And we're going to use a program called rsync. It's an amazing free utility. It's like the copy command, except it can copy between servers. It can show you the progress. It's better about preserving permissions. We're going to run it with a couple flags. I had to look up what -a, v, and p meant. So on this web page, it talks about rsync. It sounds like the v option means verbose, so it's going to show us every file that it copies. And the p option means to show us the progress on the big files. And the A means archive, and it actually sets up a bunch of defaults for how rsync should behave and copy files. So I don't know exactly what that means. All I know is that this is the type of command that I've been running for years now after someone showed me how to use this rsync with this command, and it can copy from one place to another. And I can keep running that command, and instead of copying all the files again, it looks to see what's different, which is really sweet. So I'm going to just copy that and run it in my home folder. So you'll see it copied file by file, all of them. The total size that it copied was about 40 megabytes. And now we can go into the www folder. It has everything that we had already created, which is sweet. Now I need to make a few adjustments for this web folder to work correctly. Right now, the files are owned by your username and your group. Every user gets their very own group and their own user. So what I need to do is tell the web server that it has access to read these files. So I found an interesting trick that I can leave the files owned by you, by each of you, but we can change the group, and that will allow the web server to read the files and execute them in order to show WordPress running. So I think all we have to run is this chown command. And unlike when we ran it in previous weeks when we always use the sudo command with it, you don't have access to sudo. So hopefully we can just run this command, and it's going to change the group recursively on all these folders and files. And if I run the list command again, you'll see now it's no longer owned by Web 2 2019 and the group Web 2 2019. The group is set to www data. That is the Apache group. Let me make sure that there's no questions in the chat room. So we've changed the permissions. Now there's a couple other permissions that I need everyone to set, and I've prepared the commands for you. What this set GID bit is it means any new folders that get created by WordPress need to inherit the same permissions that are already in that folder. So this, a long time ago when I had students upload their own themes that they were building, like you started learning about this week, they couldn't upload more than once. They would create a file and then they could never edit again. And boy, was that frustrating for all of us. So we learned the hard way that this setting has to be made on your www folder. Otherwise, new files in there won't be owned by the web server, and they won't be readable when you upload them again. So copy and paste this whole command, including the semicolon. It's hard to see what that did, so I'm going to just run ls-la again. You'll see a very subtle difference. There are these S's that appear on every folder. That represents that set GID bit, which means if you create a new folder in there, it will inherit the same permissions. Now we're going to set some modification permissions to give the group, the web server, write access to be able to upload files and upgrade your WordPress site. So we're going to run this chmod command, and that gives the group the write permission. That's what +w means. And I'm telling it to only do that in the WP content folder, because I don't want WordPress to be able to modify other files. That would be a little bit terrifying. Instead, I want WordPress to be able to upload things in the upload folder and in the upgrade folder. So there's a question in the chat, don't we need our own domain? No, you're not creating your own domain name. Everyone's going to be using kishba.com. The URL that you'll go to get to your website will be kishba.com/something, and I'll show you that in probably just a few minutes here. We're very close. So that set the right permission. There's a few other things that we're going to set right here. These numbers specify very specific settings that are required for Apache to be able to host your files. And I thought that this might be part of the problem with the pretty URLs not working, but still no dice even with these settings. But I've decided these are the ones that we're going to go with. We're going to set
775
on files, which means that you're the user, and the group is www.data have the ability to write, and then you have the ability, everyone else has the ability to execute files. And without that execution bit, the web server wasn't actually able to see our folder. And then the next one, that was on type D. Those are the directories in the inside of my folder. Then on all files, I set them to readable and writable and not executable. So I ran both of those commands. And here it is. Here is your new URL. It's going to be hosted at kishba.com/2019 winner for this semester. If you're watching in the future, replace it with your semester name. And then the username is, for me, it's going to be Web2 2019. For you, it's going to be your mid username. So, moment of truth, everybody. Did I follow all my directions? I'm going to go to the 2019 winner. I could have typed in my username, but I wanted to show you that I did try to turn on the ability to just see a list of all of the websites. So hopefully you see your username here when you're following your directions. I'm going to click on this. That's the same as typing it in. Nice. And hopefully you'll see the WordPress installation page. Unfortunately, error establishing database connection. I think I typed in a password wrong. So let me put my head full screen again, and let me go take a look at my WP content, my WP config file, sorry. I'm going to use nano. Let's go see what I typed wrong. I did type the wrong password in here. I could have shown this on the screen because it would have been wrong. Let me refer to my Slack notes here. Make sure you read very, very carefully. That password that I typed in was far, far off. All right, let me bring my computer screen back, everybody. Moment of truth. I've typed in the right password, I hope. Refresh. Oh, error establishing database connection again. Maybe I didn't save. Let me go back to my screen here. Someone's saying in the chat room that they ran into these problems too. It's definitely very picky. Web2 2019. 1, 2, 3. What? That is not the right password, is it? So the database name is your username _ WordPress. I've got that. The username is just the username. The password for MySQL is that. So as I'm trying to double check this, I am going to be trying to connect with the MySQL command on the server. You can run MySQL command. So I'm going to try to type this in. Interesting. Well, I'm sorry about this, especially because you can't see what I'm doing to try to fix it, because I don't want to show you any passwords. These are usually the best learning moments. Oh, I think I know. I think I have a hunch what I did. So I had done all this before, and then I tried to delete my WordPress installation. I might not have given my user access to my database again. So maybe I'll cut this out of the video when we post the recording. But what I'm going to do now is reset the permissions for this MySQL user, something that you obviously won't have to do, but something that I think I need to do. Oh, actually, this might have been a typo in the Google Doc. Oh my gosh, the username has WordPress in it. I think, okay, I know what I did. I was trying to improve upon a scenario that happened last semester. I'm silly. I'm very sorry about this, everyone. Let's see if I can pull this up. First, let me test it real quick. Okay. So I've edited the Slack password information that I gave you. The MySQL username. In fact, I can probably put this up on the screen now. The MySQL username is actually not just username. I tried to make it be underscore WordPress because I was trying to show everyone that the password or the username for MySQL is different than the username for SSH. So I think I did not update my notes afterwards when I had this brilliant idea. So my password was typed in correctly, but my username in the WP config file did not have the underscore WordPress in it. So I'm going to disappear my screen one last time and open up the WP config file. And I wish I could just show a few of the lines in here without showing the password. Okay. So let me bring my screen back. So the database name I had right. I had web2 2019 underscore WordPress. The username I had just typed the web2 2019. I hadn't put the underscore WordPress in here. So that I believe is what was missing. Now I'm going to exit and save and flip back to kishba.com/2019 winner / my username and refresh. Success! WordPress. Not sure why my video is in the wrong spot. There we go. We have the WordPress installation screen. Now, from here on out, it should be exactly like it was before. We're going to hit continue to install WordPress. We have to give our site a name. I'm going to call mine Brandon's Bistro, but this is where your final project can start taking shape. You have to come up with a username. Trust me when I tell you that you should probably put something that you're going to remember. And then you're asked to type in a strong password. I'm going to hide this, and I have a password configured that I'm going to copy in here. And paste. Do not use a weak password here. WordPress does get hacked all on its own. You should put in your email address here. I'm going to say that this is a slightly different email address. I would recommend that you tell Google and search engines not to index your site because it is just for a project. So that's what that option at the bottom is going to discourage web crawlers from actually indexing your site should they come across your site. And then click install WordPress. It should succeed, and when you click login, you should be able to type the password that you chose. Oh, and you know what? I already messed something up here. I put in the wrong username. I put in my own personal username, so it's a little bit off script for me. I'm going to hit login, though, and I'm in. So now let's make sure that everything's working correctly. I'm going to click a new, I'm going to go to post. I'm going to add a new post and say, come on, hello world. Hello world. Did I get WordPress working eventually? Yes, I did. Let's publish that. And I click view post. And it worked. So if I go to the front page of Brandon's Bistro, I've got a couple posts on here. Excellent. Now, the thing that is not great about this, if I click on the post name, you'll see that the URL is not all that pretty. It still has the words index.php in here. That's what I really wanted us to get rid of. In the settings for WordPress, if I go down under settings and then permalinks, I really, really, really wanted us to be able to do something like day and name, month and name, some of these really awesome ones. Unfortunately, I'll show you. You don't have to try changing this because it will break. I'm going to copy out this value that was here, and I'm going to try changing it to just day and name and hitting save. It pretends to succeed because it was able to write to that htaccess file. But if I actually go to my website and I click on Hello World, you're going to get this weird 404 not found page. And I am having a doozy of a time trying to figure out what is wrong, because this is exactly the setup that was working on the VMs that we set up. So I don't know what's different about my Linux server. I do know that I've secured it with an SSL certificate, so I don't know if that's at play. But it's really just a bummer to me that we can't have these pretty URLs. So for now, leave it at custom structure at the default value that has a /index.php in there, because at least then you almost have the pretty URLs. I mean, it doesn't have the post number in it at least, but it's not quite what I wanted. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to improve that before the end of the semester. So let's make sure that we can actually upload an image. So in my hello world here, I am going to try to add a block. I'm going to add an image. And you should never try to browse for an image live on the internet. So hold on just a second. Let me make sure that one of these screenshots doesn't have any grade information. No, sweet. Yeah, we'll go back to this. So on my computer, I have a screenshot of the WebAIM website because I was testing some color contrast. So I'm just going to take this screenshot and try to upload it. And the fact that it's showing up means that it was able to upload my image. So let's update my post and go look at it on the web. There it is. Success. That means that we're able to write files to the web server. You could actually go look at this yourself. So on the command line, I'm going to go into my www folder and then into the WP content folder. And if I list, you'll see that there is the uploads folder. I'm going to cd into it. And whenever you upload a file in WordPress, it tries to organize them for you. So if I go into the 2019 folder it created, then into the 04 for April, you'll see that it uploaded my image. Now, I only uploaded one image, but it actually created 5. It automatically creates different sized versions of the image at different sizes for thumbnails, which is pretty cool because you can actually make a gallery with WordPress pretty easily. So file uploads are working. That's important because next week we are going to be installing some plugins, and we need to be able to upload files for plugins to work. This week, the main topic was theming. So I talked about, or I linked to some Lynda videos that are resources for customizing some of the themes that come with WordPress, like customizing 2017, I think is what the lynda.com course was about. You can actually add themes, and you can search for the vast collection of thousands, if not millions, of WordPress themes. But you can also upload your own theme. And the main video course that I shared this week was underscores. That's a way to download a starter theme that's pretty blank. It has no CSS, really. It has a bunch of HTML already written for you with classes and IDs, which probably will remind you of the Zen Garden. But then you can write your own CSS and tweak some of the HTML tags to change how your site looks. When you're done editing that folder, you can actually upload it through the website here. Or you could upload it through something like FileZilla or WinSCP or Transmit, one of those SFTP programs that we used to upload to your VM. So I think that's pretty much where I wanted to leave it tonight. I want to make sure that this weekend you're able to install WordPress, start creating some content, and please, if you haven't finished watching some of those theming videos, get a head start on that, because you'll have to decide what you want to do, if you want to customize an existing theme or if you want to build your own using the guides that I've posted in Moodle. There's a question in the chat room about, will accessibility be on the grading rubric for the final project? Aspects of accessibility definitely are, but I don't think it's a huge rubric requirement. I'm going to be posting that this weekend, tomorrow, hopefully. So I'll double check then, and you'll find out for sure this week. But this week was the project proposal phase of the final project. So I often get questions from students like, do I have to pick a completely different topic than I did for Web 1? And I kind of like the idea of reusing topics. If you built a website in Web 1, you already have some of the content. It'd be interesting to take that and transform it into a site that can be edited through the WordPress GUI. One of the number one freelance jobs out there right now is creating custom themes or helping people manage WordPress sites. So if you can find a way to build a WordPress site and customize it to look like your client wants, you can turn that into a marketable skill and get some clients. Let's make sure that there was nothing else in the notes. So we got down to visiting our website and installing WordPress. I did leave a section with some of the commands that you had used before. So you can actually run MySQL commands right from here. So you could, if you want to run MySQL, the U would be that username, Web2 2019. Remember that it's underscore WordPress for some reason, and then -P will prompt you for the password. Let's see if I can type it right. What's cool about this, though, is if you run the show databases command, you should only have access to really your database and then the public database. So Web2 2019 WordPress is the only database that this user can use. So I'm going to type use, then the database name. And if I show tables, you will see all the WordPress tables that we looked at last week when we were looking inside the WordPress database. So that's where I wanted to leave it today. Do you have any other questions about WordPress or the shared server? I know that there had been a question about what the domain name would be. I'm not sure. Is this large enough to see that it's going to be kishpa.com/2019 winner and then / whatever your username is? Then you can visit this from any device, even your mobile phone, and you can log in by clicking on one of the links that's on the WordPress site. Is the server going to be on all the time for the next few weeks? Yep, it's on all the time. It's hosted in the cloud. Every once in a while, I'll get a notice that they have to do maintenance and it might be down, but it's usually up within 5 minutes. It has better reliability than a lot of the other cloud systems that I use, thankfully. The only thing I would urge you to be careful on is if you are not able to connect because you're typing in a username and password that it refuses, don't just keep trying because it will block. You will get blocked. Your entire IP address will get blocked for a while. So reach out to me if you're having any problems whatsoever connecting, and we'll try to sort that out. So that's all I had planned for tonight. Thank you for joining the live stream, and we'll talk again very soon.